Happy Sunday. It's Beth here. I am super excited to be sharing my first talk with you guys. I'm really sorry that it's not in person and that it's over video, but hopefully we're gonna just kind of crack on. I have got my iPad behind so that I can remember what I'm saying. So if you see me looking across here, that's what I'm actually doing. So for today's talk, we are going to discuss combating the boredom. And in this time, I'm guessing there's probably quite a lot of boredom around. I really wanted to actually start today's talk by filming on my balcony, but unfortunately the wind is too much and too loud in the microphone. So that idea went out the window, but it is bright blue sky outside, and so hopefully it is today as well, and we're having a lot of joy brought to us by the bright light in the sky. So let's crack on with looking at boredom and what it actually is to start with. So boredom's that kind of moment in your life when you haven't got something that's stimulating your brain and making you feel like you're getting enjoyment and fulfillment out of something. So I guess at the moment we're all kind of in that process where we're just finding loads of things that we're doing just unfulfilling and not stimulating us enough. So we just use those kind of dreading words of saying I'm bored. And if you're anything like me, then you'll know that I like to be outside and I like to be running around and finding random things to do and connecting with my friends. And just doing stuff, that's not the usual. So if that is you, and then you're probably finding this time pretty difficult, and keep saying that phrase of just, oh, I'm bored, like there's nothing that I can do, I'm bored. So I wanted to chat about this idea of what happens if we don't deal with the boredom. So if we don't deal with it, we risk just kind of falling into a little low mood and feeling like I can't be bothered to get out of bed in the morning, and just kind of mentally and emotionally falling into this really dark place. And it's the same with spirituality and our spiritual well-being. If we aren't regularly praying and worshipping and connecting in with people, then we risk kind of damaging our mental well-being. And I don't know if in the last couple of weeks you guys have found yourself being like, God, why did you bring this virus? Why did you allow for this to have such an effect? And in result, kind of me be stuck in my house and now I'm being bored. And I mean, I found myself saying it quite a lot in the last couple of weeks. And yeah, so if that is you, that's cool. And you're not alone. There's a few of us who are kind of questioning. But obviously at this time, some of us might be thinking God has bigger issues kind of to deal with and to tackle than our boredom. And so instead of giving over the day to him and praying and kind of just being with him, we're kind of distancing and being cool, do you know what, God, you've got this in your hands, go and crack on with whatever it is that you need to do to try and sort this worldwide pandemic kind of out. And so we just kind of struggle through each day. And I want you to know, again, that you're not alone in that. And if that is you feeling like that and that you can't come to God at this time, then that's okay. Let's face it, in the last couple of weeks, we've all probably tried to get rid of our boredom in some way or another. But most of our attempts have probably failed or been made worse because we've actually run from the thing that's making us bored. And eventually we stop and we look and we say, I'm bored again, because we're just running away from the problem. We're not staring at it right in the face and finding a way to combat it. So if we actually take long enough to just stop and look at the situation of what it is that's actually making us bored, then we'll be able to discover a way to get out of it. And I bet you're sitting there thinking, well, Beth, how? Tell me how. I'm bored. It's about time. I'm bored of being bored. We've been talking for a while. Just tell me the answer. So one answer I've got for you is that we can change our mindset and what we're thinking about and what looking at what we're thinking and not what we're doing. So one step is knowing God has a plan for your life. He doesn't include boredom in that. And you might find that sounding ridiculous at this time because everything is about being bored and having nothing to do. But actually, like, Jesus came so that we could have life and that we could have it abundantly. Like, he actually says that in John's Gospel. He says, I've come so that you can have life and live it abundantly. He doesn't say, I've come so that I can be a drag on life and create all these boredom situations kind of as we go. And he promises us two things. He promises us spiritual life with the new birth. So that's the first thing. So he promises us new birth, and he promises us a life that is meaningful. And just like any other parent, God wants us to have a life that is full of fun and joy and meaningful moments, and that we are here and that we have purpose. Like, that's his plan. That's what he wants. So what is it that you guys do when you're bored? Have a think about that. Like, what do you do when you're bored? I know that I personally go to Netflix. That's my go-to. I'm bored. I'm just going to go and zone out in Netflix, and I watch something like Love is Blind, or I don't know, something that's like a bit mind-numbing, but then I get bored of that. Or I listen to music, or I go for a walk, and eventually I just kind of get bored of them too. So I know that some of you this week have been getting up to some random things during your boredom, and so I've seen people painting fences, I've seen people painting their nails on a daily basis, and from hearing what everyone's doing, like, you've got a lot of schoolwork and you're probably starting to get a bit bored of that. So in these times, like, what is it that we can actually practically try and do to combat the boredom that we are currently finding ourselves in? So we're actually really, really lucky at the moment that we have got a lot of time inside, and we're blessed that we have some awesome time to be creative and find loads of different ways of kind of newly connecting with God in ways that we never really potentially thought about. And so the first thing that I would suggest is worship. And worship is the act of just declaring praise for God. And at church, how do we worship? Well, we use sung worship. But this isn't the only kind of worship that you can do. You could be really creative and find ways to get your families involved, or your brothers and sisters, or some friends that maybe have never had worship sessions before. And so I challenge you now to, like, think about some creative ways in which you can worship at home. You could paint a picture of how you're feeling in that day. You could write a story about COVID-19 if you really wanted to, and how you're seeing God in that. You could write a poem or write your own psalm. That's basically a poem. Listen to some music and sing a song, or even, like, write your own song if that's something that you're interested in. You could find an organisation that does a pre-planned daily worship act, or just start the day by doing a devotional. Like, start your day by giving it over to God and saying, like, God, here you go, you've got this. Like, it's in your hands. Do what you're going to do with me, and I'm here. So that's worship, creative worship, step one. Step two, let's be creative in our prayers. So you're probably thinking, Beth, you're trying to make us not be bored, and you're telling me to pray. Here's an idea. Praying doesn't have to be sitting and just telling God or writing it down. We can do really exciting stuff with prayers. And so I want to tell you guys about something called bubble prayers. Bubble prayers are one of my favourite type of prayers. How it works is you get a piece of paper and you write down all the things that you want to pray for that day. It could be a person, a situation, a scenario that you find yourselves in, or just a feeling and gratefulness of something that you want to give over to God. And what you do is you write them down on a piece of paper, and then you get the bubbles. Do you remember when you used to go to, like, a party and you got a party bag and you used to get a little pack of bubbles in that? They're the kind of bubbles I'm talking about. So get your bubbles, dip your bubble stick in the pot, and blow your bubbles, and you watch them disappear off into the atmosphere. And that moment of watching them disappear into the atmosphere, I am looking into the light, is the moment that you're handing them over to God, and that's like watching your prayers go up and reach God. And that could be a really awesome way to kind of, I don't know, like up your prayer life, or get you started in your prayer life, or deepen your prayer life. I don't know. But that's another idea. So we've got creative worship and we've got creative ways of praying. I'd really love to tell you about a guy called Elijah, and we meet Elijah in the Bible. And some of you might know the story of Elijah, but if you don't, then I would love to tell you a tiny little bit about him now. So he's a guy who was directed by God to go and hide by a stream for months and months and months. And there was no people. He was all alone, and all he had was contact with birds throughout the day, who was bringing him his dinner each day, bringing him food. So think about that. Like, he was all alone. We're really lucky. We are isolated, yes, but we're surrounded by people and technology, which means that we can connect in with each other and we can find creative solutions to things to not be bored. But Elijah never once complained about the situation that he was in, and he found joy in it, and he found contentment in being alone at the stream. We know that without his usual daily routines, he's just there at the stream. He's watching this stream start to dry up, but he's still there, just him. He's there with the birds, like just hanging out. But why was he so joyful and content with this? Well, because he knew that God had a plan for him, and that he didn't send Elijah to the river, or the stream, as just because he could. He did it because there was a plan, and we later read about this plan, and Elijah goes on to do great things. And he never complained about losing his routinely daily jobs. Like, we're doing our lives, the routine jobs. We take the bins out. We have, I don't know, we cook dinner, we hoover the floor. And I bet you're thinking, why are you trying to get me to do chores? And I'm not, I promise you. But there is something that is good about keeping our routinely daily chores and just kind of feeling like we have a purpose for the day. And okay, cool, I'm going to get up today and I'm going to take the bin bags out, and I'm going to, I don't know, I'm going to wash all the floors, or I'm going to clean the windows, or if you're like me, you're going to clean and decorate your room. And these are like God's will for your life, you know, having your routine and daily and bringing joy and having a purpose in that day. Like, just enjoy it. Like, God wants us to enjoy life and have a fulfilled time in life and have purpose. And maybe that's our purpose. Just to, at the moment, our purpose is to just get by and to support each other and do things well. I'd love to challenge you guys that the next time that you feel bored, I want you to text the group chat. I want you to send a GIF of how you're feeling, or write in what it is that you're up to that's making you feel so bored. And I want you to think about ways that you could combat that. So me and Tess would love to help you guys deepen your relationship with God now more than ever. And we have so much time that we could be spending on doing that at the moment. And so boredom can't exist if we're engaged in growing, if we're engaged in developing. And so, yeah, so that brings me on to my final point. And that's a little task for you guys for the next 5-10 minutes before we go into our Zoom chat. So I want you to spend the next 5-10 minutes to create a list of things that you can do the next time you are feeling bored. So that's point one. And then the second part of the task is to create a list that alongside that of how you're actually going to implement that. So list one, things that you can do next time you're starting to feel bored. And that doesn't have to be the stuff that we've said, or you don't have to do worship, you don't have to do prayers. It'd be good to hear how you are bringing spirituality into that. But actually, just in general, what are you doing at the moment to keep yourself from being bored? And point two is, if they are new things in that, how are you going to implement them? Guys, it's been a lot of fun hanging out. And don't forget, head over to Youth Zoom at 11:30. We will be waiting for you and excited to see your beautiful faces. Cool. See you later, guys.